The date was August 6, 1945. The time was 8:15 in the morning. In the blink of an eye, the sky over Hiroshima, Japan turned into a blinding flash of violet and white. Little Boy detonated above the city, unleashing a wind of nearly 1,000 miles per hour and a ground temperature of over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Granite melted into glass, steel twisted like wet rope. The biological silence that followed was absolute. Nothing was expected to grow in the irradiated soil for 75 years. Yet, just 1 kilometer, less than 3/4 of a mile, from the hypocenter in the courtyard of the Hosenji Temple, a blackened stump stood amidst the ash. It was charred, leafless, and by all accounts dead. But as the weeks passed and the city lay in ruin, the bark of this charred stump began to crack. From the irradiated cambium, fresh, vibrant, green, fan-shaped leaves emerged. This is the same plant that survived the asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs and endured the ice ages that wiped out the megafauna. While civilizations rise and fall, this organism simply watches, holding secrets of resilience that science is only just beginning to decode. This is the story of the Ginkgo biloba, the time traveler of the plant kingdom. Welcome to Ancestral Yields. If you want to uncover the secrets of the most indestructible organism on Earth, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Its story begins in the Jurassic period. For millions of years, diverse species of ginkgo covered the globe, flourishing in the humid, tropical climates of what are now Antarctica, North America, and Europe. It was a dominant architect of the prehistoric landscape. But as the planet entered the Eocene cooling phase and eventually the brutal freeze of the Pleistocene ice ages, the ginkgo's territory began to shrink. It was besieged by a changing climate and the rise of a new, aggressive competitor, the flowering plants, or angiosperms. These faster-growing trees outcompeted the slow, methodical ginkgo for sunlight and pollinators. The tree vanished from the fossil record in North America roughly 7 million years ago. It disappeared from Europe about 2.5 million years ago. By the time human beings began to record history, the great ginkgo forests were a memory. The tree had been pushed into a genetic bottleneck, surviving only in a solitary, precarious refuge in the Dalu Mountains of southwestern China. The ginkgo should have faded into extinction. But then, a new variable entered the equation: the human spirit. Around the year 1000 AD, during the Song dynasty, Chinese Buddhist monks ventured into those mountain refuges and encountered the survivor. They recognized the unique, fan-shaped leaves and the incredible longevity of the specimens as something sacred. To the monks, the ginkgo was a physical manifestation of endurance and resilience, mirroring the Buddhist principles of survival and enlightenment. They gathered the seeds and began a systematic effort of preservation, moving the tree from the wild forest into the protected courtyards of temples. But the monks were also the healers of their day, and they quickly realized that this tree was a living pharmacy. In the ancient pharmacopoeias of traditional Chinese medicine, the seed of the ginkgo was named Bai Guo. It was identified not merely as a food, but as a potent medicinal tool for the lungs and the kidney channels. Ancient texts prescribed Bai Guo as an astringent, something that binds and stabilizes. It was used to treat conditions of dampness and leakage. Specifically, it was the primary remedy for respiratory distress, chronic coughing, wheezing, and excessive phlegm associated with asthma. It was also used to regulate the bladder, treating issues like frequent urination and bedwetting. This was the pivotal moment in the ginkgo's history. It transformed from a wild relic fighting for resources into a revered temple tree. The monks cultivated it with devotion, and from China the seeds traveled with the spread of Buddhism to Korea and eventually to Japan around the 12th century. For centuries, the Western world remained oblivious to its existence. It was not until 1690 that the German botanist Engelbert Kempfer encountered the tree in a Japanese temple garden, describing it to the West as a living fossil that had walked out of the grave. But how did this tree survive the nuclear blast at Hiroshima? The ginkgo tree possesses a unique feature called a lignotuber, known as chichi in Japanese. These are stalactite-like growths that form on the trunk of old trees and grow downward toward the soil. These structures contain vegetative buds and reserves of starch. When the main trunk is destroyed, whether by fire, lightning, or an atomic blast, these specialized survival organs can activate, sending up new shoots from the base. This is exactly what happened at the Hosenji Temple. Furthermore, ginkgo leaves produce a cocktail of chemical defenses, including strong acids and flavonoids. These compounds make the tree unpalatable to almost every insect and largely impervious to most fungal diseases. Its primitive nature is also revealed in its reproduction. The ginkgo is a gymnosperm, which means it has naked seeds. But it is not a conifer. It is the sole survivor of its own division, the ginkgo phyta. It utilizes zoidogamy, which means motile sperm. Unlike an oak or a maple, where pollen grows a tube to reach the egg, the ginkgo's male cells literally swim to the female egg using tiny beating hairs called cilia. This trait is shared with mosses and ferns, a biological echo from a time when plants were just emerging from the primordial water. But that is not its only superpower. While the ancients revered the tree for its spirit, they valued the nut and the leaf for the body. The ginkgo nut is a powerhouse. In a standard 3.5-ounce serving, 100 grams, the nut provides about 180 calories. Unlike fatty tree nuts like walnuts, the ginkgo nut is practically a grain containing less than 2 grams of fat, packed with complex starches, and about 4.3 grams of protein. The mineral profile is staggering. That same 3.5-ounce serving delivers approximately 510 milligrams of potassium. Compare that to the banana, which offers only about 358 milligrams for the same weight. It also provides 27 milligrams of vitamin C and massive amounts of niacin, vitamin B3, crucial for DNA repair. But the benefits extend to the mind. Modern science has validated the ancient use of ginkgo leaves as a brain tonic. The leaves contain unique compounds called ginkgolides and bilobalides. These terpene lactones act as powerful vasodilators, opening blood vessels and improving microcirculation in the brain, which enhances blood flow. This is why standardized ginkgo extract EGB 761 is prescribed globally to combat memory loss, cognitive decline, and tinnitus. If you are inspired to invite this prehistoric survivor into your own garden, you must understand that the ginkgo is the ultimate test of delayed gratification. It is incredibly hardy, thriving in USDA zones 3 through 8, capable of withstanding the freezing winters of Minnesota just as well as the humidity of the Carolinas. However, growing it for food requires strategy. True to its original Chinese name, Gong Sun Shu, which translates to grandfather-grandchild tree, if you plant a ginkgo from a fresh seed, you are making a commitment for the next generation. It takes anywhere from 20 to 30 years for a seed-grown ginkgo to reach sexual maturity and bear fruit. The ginkgo is dioecious, meaning trees are distinctively male or female. You cannot tell the gender of a seedling until it flowers decades later. You could wait 30 years only to find you have a male tree that produces no nuts. The solution to this dilemma is grafting. It is far superior to purchase a named female cultivar from a specialized nursery rather than relying on seeds. A grafted tree is a clone of a mature female, meaning it skips the juvenile phase. Instead of waiting decades, a grafted sapling can begin producing fruit in as little as 3 to 5 years, but often longer. Finding these female trees can be a challenge. Most garden centers only stock male cultivars like autumn gold because urban planners detest the messy fruit. When the fruit, technically a sarcotesta, falls to the ground in late fall, it begins to ferment. It releases high concentrations of butyric acid. To the human nose, this is indistinguishable from the smell of rancid butter or vomit. The stench is so potent that most American city planners have banned the planting of female trees. If this does not deter you, you will likely need to order from specialty forestry nurseries or permaculture suppliers that stock fruit-bearing varieties like Salem Lady or Eastern Star. Always check local laws before you start this lifelong project. When planting, choose a spot with full sun and well-draining soil. Dig a hole twice the width of the root ball, but no deeper. The ginkgo is incredibly tolerant of compacted soil, pollution, and road salt. Traits that make it a favorite for city streets, but it despises having wet feet. Once established, it is virtually indestructible, requiring little to no irrigation or fertilization. It is a set-it-and-forget-it legacy tree. The harvest window opens in late fall, usually October or November, after the first hard frost causes the leaves to turn that brilliant saffron yellow and drop. The fleshy fruits fall with them. When you go out to collect them, you must treat it like a hazmat operation. The pulp of the fruit contains gingolic acids, the same class of allergenic chemicals found in poison ivy. Touching the broken fruit skin can cause severe contact dermatitis and blistering. Always wear thick rubber gloves. Collect the fallen fruits, wash them outdoors to remove the stinking pulp, and rinse the hard white shells. When preparing the nut, one should also practice caution. The ginkgo seed contains a compound called 4'O-methylpyridoxine, also known as ginkgo toxin, a potent toxin that interferes with vitamin B6 in the body. If eaten raw or in large quantities, it can cause seizures. Nuts must always be cooked, roasted, or boiled to reduce toxicity. Crack the hard outer shell with a nutcracker to reveal the jade-green kernel inside. Inside that shell is the ginnin, also called silver apricot. Remove the thin papery skin. You can then roast the kernels in a pan with a little oil and salt until the kernel turns a bright, translucent emerald green. Or boil them in soups. The heat reduces the toxicity, but it does not eliminate it entirely. Because the toxin is heat stable, moderation is non-negotiable. Adults should consume no more than 10 to 15 roasted nuts a day, and children should be limited to 5 or fewer. This is a medicinal food. Do not pop them like peanuts. If the prospect of handling toxic pulp seems too daunting, or you simply cannot wait for a tree to grow, you can still experience this prehistoric flavor. The prepared nuts are a staple in Asian supermarkets, often sold vacuum-packed, canned, or in the frozen section. In Japan, they are a revered seasonal delicacy, often served grilled on skewers at yakitori bars or hidden like savory jewels inside the steamed egg custard dish chawanmushi. In Chinese cuisine, they are often an ingredient in sweet dessert soups. Today, the trees that survived the Hiroshima blast are known as Hibakujumoku, the survivor trees. They are marked with plaques and treated with the reverence of saints. They stand as a testament that life can endure even our worst mistakes. In a world of fast food, fast growth, and disposable crops, the ginkgo teaches us the value of patience. It takes a human lifetime to reach its prime. In exchange, it offers a connection to the deep earth that no other plant can provide. It is a living fossil that cleans our air, heals our brains, and feeds us with the same nutrients it provided to the ancients. So plant a ginkgo today, not for the harvest next year, but as an act of faith in the future. Leave a living fossil for the next century. If you enjoyed this video on the deep roots of history, give it a like and subscribe to Ancestral Yields. See you in the garden.